Hey rail fans, train guy here again, and today a little look at and here we go with my pronunciation, the Schnellfahrstrecke Kolnachen, the high-speed route between Köln and Aachen, which was one of the base routes to come with Train Sim World 2, and one that has improved already since the game launched with the addition of loads more traffic, as we can see along the bottom. There's lots and lots of stuff to play with along here now instead of the two that we were given at the beginning. But for the purposes of this, just because I bloody love them so much, we're going to drive the ICE. Let's just get a few things set here, so we'll make it a foggy day, because that's what it's like outside my window right now. So already done all these at some point, but what we'll do is we'll do a westbound in the ICE. Starts under LZB, then you have to drive it the last of the way home yourself, and after that we'll see how we're doing for time, and we might jump into a talent too and do the return trip, or I might do it in the IC. We'll see. I'm just trying to remember, there's different amounts of traffic at different types of day, and I don't want to get one that's yeah, by back of 7 everything should be out on the line anyway. Right, so we'll take the 743 ICE 18 service going to Brussels. Bruxelles, I think they pronounce it Brussels, something like that. Brussels. Yeah. So several loading screens later. And something I have found absolutely brilliant for well, for any train with AFB, if you're in a situation where you can play this with a keyboard in front of you, oh my word, it makes such a difference. Trying to operate these sort of 3 or 4 handled cabs. So, doesn't dump us straight in. If this is your first time seeing TSW2, where have you been? Relevant information about the train, none of which is really going to make a huge impact to us because we don't need to park it or shunt it or things like that. That length, all this information here, especially the length, that makes a huge difference when you're bashing wagons around in a yard, I have to say. Great addition. So here we are in the cab. First thing to do, tell it we're going forward. If you try and unlock the doors first, they will not open. Down to the MTD. 550 turns on all your lights. Click the UD button twice to take yourself to this screen. E to enter a destination, and we want Brussels Midi, and then press E to confirm you're entering that. Then we just take the screen back to the first one, jump over to the AFB screen.
AFB.
And once it's on, we grundbuild back to the main screen. So we've still got a minute or so to go, minute and a bit before we need to move. In here is your LZB, your PZB, and your Zifa. Those are now on and armed. Let's pop out, have a quick look. So there's your destination board. Once you've turned it on, you get you don't get this on the Augsburg one, the little sort of scrolling list of intermediary stops, or you don't get it on all of them certainly, but you do on this one. Better watch the time, eh? Just in case I make any mistakes, they don't need to see. Oh yeah, headlights as well.
Schließvorgang eingeleitet.
So, set the AFB first, and then give it a little bit of power, off we go. And I always like to just look down slightly when I'm in the I always want to call it the cockpit view, the cab view, just so that I can see the PZB lights and things along that bottom row there. I tend to drive off the HUD more, off the actual gauges in the train, than I do off the display in the bottom right, where as much as possible. Although there is some really useful information on there, and not all cabs have gauges that are particularly easy to read, so always worth having. Cancel Zifa. Hello Brian, welcome to the stream. Forgive me if I don't say the whole name out loud. I trip over my own words enough. So we're getting underway here. Not going up to 70 straight up, because there is a 60 following immediately. And very, very quickly after leaving Cologne, we shall be under LZB. At which point we're just there to press SIFA for about 25 kilometres. And then the back half we have to drive it all by ourselves. Sort of. So I can clear up to 80 now. It's really easy to know when to speed up without having to look at the HUD as well. When you know the train's 200 metres long and there's a distance marker every 200 metres at the side of the track, that's easy peasy. So there's the LZB sign just to our right there. So now we just pop the AFB lever into full. You'll see down in the bottom right and on the PZB lights that the U, there's a letter U with an umlaut above it, which is lit up. And that's just to tell us that we're in full LZB now. So the speed limit's still 80. The train knows that. It's got enough power to do what it needs to when it needs to. Excuse me. That's no the Crony Boy, by the way. That's the smoked for 20 odd years. It's not big and it's not clever, kids.
Zifa, Zifa, Zifa.
The reason I'm doing Kolnachen rather than the München Augsburg, Augsburg still, well, the whole route needs, in fact, it's the München end in particular, needs a ton of optimisation, and it's quite stuttery and stoppy-starty, and probably not that much fun to watch because there's not a huge amount of traffic on it once you clear Munich either. Although if anybody has seen the video of Train Sim World 2 running, I can't remember if it was Ars Technica or somebody who did it, Google it, you'll find footage of Train Sim World 2 running on a PlayStation 5, and oh my god. I've gone from, might pick one up in a couple of years to, okay, springtime it is. It is good. It's Bus Spotter Nick. Hello mate, how are you? Long time no see. So, S-Bahn wankers on the left, slow train wankers. Way! Oh, freight train as well. There's so many things on this line now. It's fair to say this line does feel a lot busier now. It's not up there with a Ruhr Signord or you know, like the two little Diddy short ones that we got with the S-Bahn main line mixed, but it is a hell of a lot less of a ghost town than it was when it dropped. Bus driver right now. Oh, are you actually streaming, or are you literally driving buses? I really do need to get. Actually, do you know what? I really enjoyed Bus Simulator for the few weeks that I played it. I really should put it back on one of these days. Do you know, I even did set up nice one in real life. Awesome. I'm really pleased to hear that, man. That's good. So that's been a couple of years now you've been gunning to get to doing something like that, isn't it? Brilliant. When I do go back to Bus Simulator and I can't remember how to do anything, I know you can come and ask now. Tremendous. I did notice you have streamed it a couple of times as well. Right, the drone camera cannot even keep up with the IC at this point. We're now outrunning the drone cam. Speed! Bye-bye! That's crazy, I can't even keep up with my own train. That's the S-Bahn line over on the left, and I think we will probably see some more traffic up there. Set the emergency brake on it. Is that sort of the standard, oh fuck, I don't know what to do, we'll just, that's the cure for everything? That's like emergency procedure number one, just hit the emergency brake. That's not a terrible strategy. In fact, it is almost as valid a strategy as the use a bigger hammer strategy. I'm not hitting the emergency brakes on this because I've never actually pressed that button, and there will almost certainly be complicated computery things to do to release the train from that state. If only simply because it's me that did it. Although I did figure out why the 363 kept stopping on me unexpectedly the other day. It was a, well, I'm calling it an undocumented safety feature. It's more like a train guy couldn't be arsed reading the manual safety feature. I did get to the bottom of that mystery, and I know how to stop it happening again. And there probably will be another 363 stream at some point, because I had so much fun with that machine. So there's the... Unfortunately, I did forget that around 8 o'clock in the morning, and once again in the afternoon, a couple of S-Bahn trains sort of meet head-on down that stretch of line, and they get a bit stuck. You don't really notice it as you're thundering past it at 150 miles an hour, but it is noticeable once you know it's there, kind of thing. So. That should get fixed. So we've got a 200 km/h zone coming up in a little under 5 kilometres. There's nothing showing up on the heads-up display on the screen just now. But the cab gauges are telling me that we're now 4 kilometres, and we should see it appear up in the HUD. There you go. Oh, bloody hell, had to use the emergency brake. Oh, I wouldn't have fancied being that driver in the meeting that he must have had afterwards. Tommy, hello mate, good to see you, long time no see indeed. Welcome. We're just discussing emergency brakes and why I'm not going to activate them. Actually, there was an incident not that long ago near me at Waverley Station in Edinburgh where the overnight sleeper from London went clean through the station at about 20 miles an hour and came to stop down beyond the red at the end of the platform, which could have got quite interesting because coming towards him at that time of the morning would have been like every train from Glasgow and the west and the northwest of England and the north of Scotland. So yeah, nothing major happened. There was no impacts or injuries, and you know, I never did go back and look and see what the inquiry found with that or whether it's been done yet. That was last year, I think, that happened. I need to go back and investigate that one. I wasn't on the train at the time, I have to say. No, the Caledonian sleeper is not for the likes of me. But it was in the local news at the time. Actually, I work very close to Waverley Station as well. So I'm going to be concentrating a little bit through here, and lag spike as we come into the station whose name I can never remember, because somebody decided to park loads and loads of trains in those sidings. So some of them seem to have gone actually, which is good. I'm going to go a bit quiet over the next couple of miles just because we're going to do the transition back from LZB to PZB. I will try and talk through what I'm doing, but I'm going to be focused. preemptively put my AFB screen on. And remember, you must release, not acknowledge the PZB when it starts to go off. We're going to reduce the power now. Do I have moderators to order the chat? Never really needed them, mate. Nobody's really... Not that many people really care what I've got to say. I've never had an issue with the chat ever, I have to say. Train Sim's the sort of game, I think my wee one-man operation here, I could probably, you know, take my eye away for a wee minute to do any banhammering that was needed. Not that Right, so the throttle's off, set the AFB back to 160, and then turn your AFB back on. Just give the lever a little knock to make sure you've done it properly, because if you buggered it up somewhere, then the speed setting won't change. So there we go, we're back in PZ now, and we are in control of the train. So this is where you kind of need to start paying attention. Put your willy away and start driving again at this point. So there are a couple of speed changes that we will come up against. This feels so pedestrian now after the high speed run. There are a few speed limit changes, and one of them has a weird little PZB trap, which I think is actually a thing that is part of PZB. It is used occasionally for high speed stuff. If you, there's no acknowledgement, but if you're about to go blasting through this 120 zone at 125 or more, you do actually get a PZB kicks in. Whether it's a bug in the system, or whether that's some sort of invisible safety PZB system that's just not been well documented, I don't know, but it is something to be aware of. But as long as you brake nice and early for that, as you pass the signpost, you should make it. Brakes, 3 or 4 brakes will usually do it. Ah, right, so you can buy like just a day ticket kind of thing, or a season pass, and you can just hop on and off even the intercities and things. It's kind of like that here, except when it's not, which you don't always know until you try to get on the damn train. It's not as straightforward travelling by rail over here, that's for sure. It's also why we get crap empty routes on Train Sim World, because they can when they get the Great Western license, for example. Normally there would be trains from half a dozen operators running on that stretch between Paddington and Reading, but they've only got the license for the Great Western, so they can only put that in. Whereas if it was a Deutsche Bahn route, I could just throw in anything if we built the train for it and it runs there, we're good. One of the reasons I do like the German content, they just feel a bit busier, by and large. Transpennine was okay with the freight pack on it. Tees Valley's alright with latterly the stuff that's been added. Great Western always felt, even when they beefed it up later on, it feels odd if you've ridden on our network just seeing one colour of train going by all the time. So here we are coming up on the 120, the next signal is not red. Nice try. I've got my fun stoppers on, I would have known if I'd gone past a yellow. Gotta try though. Gotta try. Do that to me when it's the Northern Trans-Pennine, especially if I've had a wee drink here or a smoky before we've taken off, and I will almost certainly fall for it. Not so much on a fully equipped route though, perhaps. So I'm just watching out for the upcoming sign. I think it's because I don't know, as I say, whether this is a bug or something, or whether it's just because of the drop involved, and it's maybe only specific to certain services. I have read of really weird variations within the PZB system that you might come across in like one place on one part of the network, but I can't remember what those are. Actually dropped the AFB lever a little far there, but we're fine, we've recovered from that. It's about this point here where the shunt signal is, it seems to decide if you're going too fast or not, or as the shunt signal comes into view rather, is about where you'll get the brake supply if it decides you're going too quick. Pulled that one off nicely. There's not the same thing for the next one down to 110, and I know that because I've been halfway down the 110 stretch before noticing I was even in it before. Oh, Arriva! Yeah, I forget. I always forget. Arriva are basically the Dutch National Railway, aren't they? Sadly, they did a piss poor job of running the West Coast main line, but was it the West Coast? What was the one they were running that they got hoofed out of for being crap not long ago? It's great because what happens is all the European state railway operators, they get the franchise to basically fill their boots at the taxpayers' expense over here, run absolutely shit services, and then pour all the money into giving you guys an absolutely fucking first class network. Great little number. You see, it's little rants like that why nobody listens to me. Maybe you shouldn't have pinned my colours to my mast quite so obviously sometimes. Right. So we're back into a 140 zone. So this sounds like it's basically home territory for you, Nick. You sound like you know this area really well. I mean, this is border territory, isn't it? This is right, Aachen's right on the German-Dutch border, I believe. too far to go now, and then I think we probably will burl it around and come back in a something. I've not decided yet. It's pretty cool driving freight trains along here now, although it's fairly detached. You basically get it up to speed and then just drive to the other end. I've not really come across anything complicated with the freight trains yet in terms of running into signals and stuff like that. Border is by. I'm not going to embarrass myself. 1 kilometre away from Eagleshoven and Landgraf. Okay. So another 120 up ahead, but there is going to be signal enforced speed limits as well. You often do need to give the AFB just a little bit of help with the brakes. 1A and 1B brakes on this are barely anything though. They really are just for doing those little minor adjustments. I know where Rotterdam is. In fact, I passed through it many years ago. This one sets, that's 100 on the next one. That's fine. We're already well below that, but next up could be a much lower one. So there's one for 40. Just make sure the throttle's off. Don't need much in the way of brakes. Pump the brakes a little bit, but once you're under 85 you're safe from PZB essentially, and you can kind of just coast around here. We're nearly 4 minutes early, and it's about half a kilometre, 3/4 of a kilometre around this bend to shave it off down to 40. I passed through it in a car, not a train. Do you know what? I just can't get to grips with the scenario maker thing just yet. Too much guesswork. Label everything on the map and then I'll go back and play with it. That's essentially my big gripe with it. Nothing's labelled or marked very well. I used to love playing with stuff like that. Mission builders and scenario makers and things, but... And I discovered very quickly that there is actually a fairly low cap on the number of things you can have running, and you can't have stuff spawning before you, which kind of restricts things as well. And yeah, I'm not saying I'll never do it, and I'm not saying it's outright bad. It's just, it needs to be a bit more. It just needs to be a bit more before I really take much of an interest in it. Doing anything with the scenario planner, it's not on my roadmap. I'm going to use that one. I don't have a roadmap, but if I did, it's not on it.
SIFA, SIFA. Türen geöffnet.
And there we go. All good. The RE18. Ah, as in we can nash over and grab it. Give it a go. It's a big long tanker train. Those are great, and they're... My biggest problem with them is they take forever to get moving, and I think it might be like the new physics engine in the fact that they're on a corner, much more friction to overcome. But by jings, it takes ages and ages to get that thing underway. Even if you sort of skip the AFB and just pour the power into it yourself, it's a long, long wait.
Schließvorgang eingeleitet.
Right, so what we'll do is we'll just go back to... What side's the platform on? Need to be quick because an AI driver will take over and be off with the train. Right. Come on, a live railway. We'll peg it under here. Oh, already collected that one. Oh, choices, choices. What are you? These ones, unfortunately, the thingy-me-doodads don't work. Oh, he's going that way. They're both going the wrong way. Let's see what it gives us. Oh, I'm not waiting 45 minutes. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. I have, believe it or not, done that. When I've been playing offline, I have waited quite a long time for a service to begin the other way. And just gone off and had like a cuppa and stuff while I waited, but... I can't think of enough things to say to fill 45 minutes. Ooh, that's a nice picture. London Underground. I have kind of marked this up as a Schnellfahrstrecke stream is the thing. Unless I've marked it as being something where I'm going to jump around or do random stuff. I always like to try and stay on theme, otherwise it gets confusing for me as much as anything else when I go back later and try and find, oh, what was that one where I did so and so, I need to see that, and then I'm derp. I feel like I am getting my mojo back a wee bit though, and I'm having a little bit more time to available to do these streams, so I will... I do have other stuff in the game that I've either not looked at very much or at all, that I would like to maybe do some streams on, and I don't. I'm not yet at a point where I can like plan a schedule or anything like that, and I never really did that anyway. I just tended to. Oh yeah, I'm playing Train Simulator. Let's do that stream thing. not really always possible at the moment. But, right, what I'm going to do is I am going to. Let's have a look. We'll go back in the talent, see how much of a mess I can make of that. Oh, I haven't even done all of these yet. Okay. Right, we'll just do the 1018. I did choose that going in the right direction, didn't I? Oh, thank you, Telex number. Hello, welcome. That's very kind of you to say. I appreciate that, man. Oh, I like all the rusting on that bridge and things. The detail in this version, TSW2, they've definitely upped their game there. That's for sure. And the weathering effects. Oh, the weathering effects on the 363 are just outstanding. Right, so I've got it going in the right direction. That's fine. I thought for a horrible second I've just picked to do that exact same route in the same direction again. That's one thing I find very quickly. I don't enjoy my second trip in a row in the same direction. I can sit and go up and down a line all day long, but for some reason I just kind of do two in a row. Oh, you went and bought the 363. Well, I hope you've had more success with it than I had for the entirety of that stream. Although I did get to the bottom of a few things about it, and I think I understand it a bit better now. Crucially, I know why the brakes kept banging on. I figured that bit out. It was because I didn't have my brake handle set properly. I had it in handle off instead of running or whatever. The drive I think is the sort of the run and release mode. It's not. There is a setting called release, but that's not the one it should be at. But it's the one where the brakes can come straight off again. That's where it needed to be. Okay, Nick, good to see you again, man. Hopefully see you again soon. And you stay safe, my man. Public transport worker, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely mean it when I say heroes of our day. That's enough of that. Let's get driving a train. So I haven't actually played with this for a couple of weeks. There may be issues, particularly with my memory. So first up, we'll get the reverser forward. We'll get the doors open on the left. Now screen 1 I think is the one we want, and it's FIS, and we are going to Cologne. Just visually confirm our boards have come on. Yeah, there we go. The driver's seat view, and passenger lights on, cab light off, headlights dimmed, and what else do I need to do? Oh yeah, PZB isolation, not the bridging one. And safer. I was actually reaching for the blind there. Hey ho. Right, now this is actually cool because I've discovered you can essentially drive the thing on the tempo map. This is another sort of one of these things that if you've got a keyboard, it's going to be much easier than the pad, just because it's clicky draggy things are fine, but they're not perfect for the sort of responses you need for this. So we're just going to get these doors closed up quickly. When the doors close and the interlock's clear, I can actually just turn the tempo mat on, and if I hold the button down to increase it, without applying any throttle, as long as the power is on, I don't need to have an actual application. So up to this point, I have not touched the combined handle at all. Found using the keyboard good for applying the brakes on it. Funnily enough, the 363 is actually one of the few machines I prefer to drive with the pad than the keyboard. Almost everything else, I'll take my keyboard every time. But I found myself going back to the pad a lot. I don't know why, I can't explain it. I'm just a weirdo sometimes. I think it's because of the springy direct brake, which I use a lot. I rarely touch the actual train brake handle, other than to release it and set it back to the off position for the end change. And I think the trigger on a PS4 pad feels more. How am I trying to put it? It relates more to what I'm seeing on the screen with the springy handle than a keyboard, a button on a keyboard does. That's about the best I can do to explain it. So we're now. I'm not going to take it up to the full 100 because this thing actually, if I remember rightly, needs a decent run at the braking. Probably going to bugger the braking up a couple of times because this thing is absolutely it's a weird one. Sometimes it feels like the brakes are really good, and then when you think you've got them nailed, you'll go sailing through a station and stop an entire train set off the end of the platform or something like that. Oh, that's the power, not the brakes. I'm going to overshoot, I think, maybe. Oh, I didn't. So what we can do now is if we put the handle back to the middle position, the safety interlocks are still on because the doors are still open, and once they close we can just take off under tempo mat again. Only time that you really need to use the throttle on this thing is to slow down. I've not tried that method on the Talent 2 on Rapid Transit. One of these days I will. It's not something I've got around to yet. It's another one that's not on my non-existent roadmap, so there. But maybe it would be if the non-existent map existed. I don't know. So takes about 6 or 7 seconds, I think, for these doors to fully go through a closing cycle. So just give yourself that wee bit of time if you can. Control and R for the tempomat on, and then R to increase it. It goes up in tiny increments to the first 5, and then it goes up pretty swift. Slows down pretty handily on the tempomat as well, it has to be said. And if you are using a pad and you want to click and drag it with the mouse, the tempomat controls are... that's the on-off switch, and that's the rocker switch to increase or decrease the speed. You just click and hold it down or up, and then just hold your X button down. Totally drivable that way, just probably not very comfortable. See the upcoming signal up. Got the trouble of switching all the safeties on and then don't look at the signal. That's where we end up with. Not sure what the dealio is with that wee station, whether that's like a now redundant one or an under construction one. That happens a couple of times along this route. There's a few places where which is, I mean, that does sometimes happen. You have to sort of be aware that there are a couple of signals that have the potential to be requiring you to do something, and you won't see them until the last second. Yeah, the control, the build up to speed then control R is how I always did it since I discovered how to use tempomat back in the early days of Train Sim World. And it was something I discovered by accident because I basically was still learning the keyboard and pressed the buttons out of sequence to go through the apply the throttle and I realised that I'd set the tempomat and begun to increase it, but I hadn't actually set the throttle or anything like that. It was an accidental discovery, basically. Whether this is an approved... Oh, there we go. I'm busy talking, not looking at signals. This happens quite a lot. I've got a funny feeling we might actually make a half decent stop though. Which is fine. We might be a little bit off at the back. Oh, in fact, no, we get the back doors on. Excellent. Yes, 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 yes. Right, now we've got all the safeties away. Isaac's World of Boxing, hello there, welcome. When's Heavy Freight Pack release due? I don't know. I would imagine it'll be next week. Or they would hope to have it next week. Just going by the sort of the 2-week rolling thing that they've done all this stuff on so far at least. But I'm afraid I can only guess at that, my friend. I am not privy to any information that can be found on Facebook or Reddit. I'm probably far too sweary and almost certainly said far too many mean things about the game to ever be allowed to see stuff first or things like that. That's never going to be a thing. So, thanks to my crap driving and one emergency brake application later, we're actually a little bit early. We've got quite a bit of time to wait, so we'll go for a little walk around the station. It's, yeah. I mean, it's a nice station, and I like I don't even know what this thing is down here. I just think this big concrete red thing looks kind of cool. That we normally end up drawing up next to. This is where we're supposed to be stopped down here, as opposed to where we ended up. What is this? It's really cool. I like it, but I don't know what it actually is. I'm assuming it has a function. Decent. Right, we better nosh back down to the train because we're not parked as close up the end as we normally should be. Ugh. And of course I will be starting under PZB, not just monitoring but outright proper hand holding with a hairbrush in one hand, because I messed up on my way in. Ah, Super Sprinter, yes, you have told me this before. I'm really sorry. Mate, my memory is crap. I'm doing well if I can remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, so I am really sorry. I always forget. There's a couple of you who've changed your names at various times, and I embarrass myself frequently with it. It's good to see you again, my friends. PZB seems to be quite happy with me, so I'm not even sure how I set it off, to be honest with you. I really was paying absolutely no attention. I think it was maybe a signpost for a speed limit or something I sailed through. So we've only got 3 kilometres to go to the next station as well, so we're going into a 110 up ahead, so there's no need to ramp it all the way up. Chris Hart, hello, welcome, good to see you, my friend. It's been a... Oh, no, that's fine. Moment of panic there. It's been a while since I've driven this train, and I'm kind of... whereabouts on the display is that thing again? And what have you? And I think I've just killed my AFB, my tempomat as well. Slowly, although I think the time limits are reasonably generous on this route. It's really easy when you're on this route as well to forget that you're not on the LZB train. And then you stop paying attention down on that fast section, and then something happens and you remember, oh yeah, I'm not got LZB. .75 kilometre to run. Could have left it later. I thought the brakes on this were a lot weaker than they're actually turning out to be. But I've driven that many different German trains over the last few weeks that they're honestly all kind of blurring into one. Okay. So we're more or less on time. Oh, we'll go and get. I don't go out of my way for collectibles, but if I spot an easy grab, that's not a that is a collectible. Yeah. If I see an easy grab from where I happen to be parked, then I'll sometimes gnash out and grab it. I don't think there's any other fairly close ones here. Nope. Nothing around the back of it. Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah, the reflections and stuff. That's pretty cool. I haven't noticed that before. Okay. So, some trains you can go. You press the button to shut the doors before that little yellow timery things run out. I don't think this is one of them. The London Underground one, you can do it when it's still about four-fifths of the way around. You can go for it. Always double check you're not getting a PZB prompt when you leave the station. Even if you're pretty certain you shouldn't be getting one. It's good practice just to check before you take it up above 40. So we're getting onto the higher speed section of the line now, and that's all the stoppy starty stuff done. I think after Langerve hit, that place that we're going next. I think it's a good 15-kilometre run to the next station. There's only one or like 2 or 3 more stops after that. We stop at Durham, I think, afterwards, and then it's a fairly long run. Chris Hart bought Trains and World 2020 collectors at the weekend to fill in some route gaps. Oh, brilliant! Been driving RSN PZB. Oh, are you sure that's a good idea after what I just did? Oh, we're on the fast section as well now, so 160 is the top speed we'll be doing. It can feel a little bit pedestrian if you come to the straight off the back of the ICE3, but it's still a very pleasant little machine to drive actually. I'm enjoying it. I always do when I drive it, even if it takes me a few stops to get my head around the brakes again. Still not decided whether I prefer this machine in red or silver though, because it's a bloody nice looking machine in silver. Now this station up ahead, we need to watch for signals as we approach because we're going to get PZD'd. So we saw it flashing, so we start slowing down. That one doesn't need a response, but we begin reducing our speed anyway, and we know there's an 80 coming up, so you don't need to reduce to 80 now, but reduce to a sensible speed. And then as we pass this one, we do need to acknowledge it and get below 80 sharp, 85 sharpish. There we go. Then we can just plug the tempomat back in. Hey! So we're a ways away from the actual stop, but because we've got PZB and things like that, we have to be down to 80 effectively now, even though we're still over 1,000 metres away from the junction. It is just the way it works. So it's not a main, and it doesn't have a... Can't remember what the plate is under it, so I don't think that one does need an acknowledge. I'll find it very shortly what it does. This is a main with distant information, and actually didn't need an acknowledge. I thought that one did. If in doubt, acknowledge it. It never do you any harm for acknowledging something you didn't need to, but you will pay dearly if you miss one that you should have. Am I going to be upgrading to a PS5 eventually? Because I've seen the video you're talking about, and that's where I went from, I'll get one in a couple of years to, okay, springtime. I think I might be one of like a tiny number of people for whom this game is going to be the system seller, but yeah, that's the system seller for me. I saw that video of the ICE3. So the plan is in the springtime. The reality is subject to circumstances, probably. I didn't see if that was 40 or 41 we were supposed to arrive. I think it was 40. So again, the interlocks are on, so we can just zero off the handle. And then we'll be... I'd get out for a wander, but I was not looking at the clock as I came in, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be zipping and going as soon as we're done, or if I had a bit of time in my pocket. I suspect it was the former. Could still do with more traffic on this line, quite frankly. And there was something on the roadmap about more DLC coming for this. So there might be more stuff up their sleeves, but they got to sort out this memory issue first. Aye, so it's lock and go. We didn't have any time in our pocket there. So 40 initially, just double check PZB's quite happy with us. Especially as we did have it running before we stopped. And then just let the back of the train get clear of the junction. Marker 486, you should be alright. 48.6, you're good. Because they're every 200 metres apart, you know how long the train is now. Because of those wonderful new information screens that I do actually highly approve of. You just keep a note of that, and as long as you've got these markers at the side of the track, you don't even need to look at your speedo on the HUD to know when it's go time. Telex number also in the Never Want a PS5 club, yes. It's funny, I've had very little enthusiasm or excitement for any of the the big hitter games that have been announced. I just wasn't feeling that enthused by it. The only other big thing sort of imminent that I'm aware of is I also play Elite Dangerous. Their next batch of content's coming up on PS4. So that was already not, that was the one thing that might have got me to think about it. And then Dovetail have been saying, we've got no plans for it, we're not really going to do anything with it. Hopefully it might run a bit better on better hardware, but that's it. And then we all saw that video, and now I'm just, oh yes, I kind of wish I'd pre-ordered one now. Being honest with you, I'm kicking myself, but what can you do, eh? I got in early on the last generation, and all I got from the trouble was 2 knackered control pads, because Sony's out on the first production run. Remember them, the pads, the thumbsticks used to just come apart under your thumb after a few months, like the rubber coating. It was horrible. And then they were just slidey rubber, plastic underneath, they were useless. Sony ended up replacing loads of them, and I got a set for nothing. I was late enough to the generation before that Yellow Line of Death was never really a worry for me on the PS3. They pretty much solved that by then. My first PlayStation 2, which was a launch day machine, no it wasn't, it was the second wave of machines that came into the country early in the following year, and it was one of the many early run machines that fell prey to the power pack of explodiness, which was a shocking experience. Actually, it wasn't really shocking. It would have been if I'd been holding the bloody pack in my hand when it decided it had enough. But they very generously replaced my PlayStation, even though it was about 2 months over the warranty at that point. And I have to say, they won a customer for life with me back then. And I've never had anything but good experiences with them from a customer service point of view. I've even bought the wrong game when I was pissed one night because I didn't read the thing, and I chanced my arm and I phoned them and I told them I bought the wrong game when I was pissed. Can I please have the credit back so I can buy the right game? And they did, because I hadn't actually launched the game. I just started the download and then got to bed because I hadn't actually started the game. Now, any quibbles, in fact the girl was pissing herself laughing on the phone when I was explaining what had happened to her, but they were very sympathetic and they gave me my money back. So I've always had a good experience that way with Sony, I have to say. Although, credit where it's due, the one time I had to get on the phone to Microsoft for one of my son's accounts, it wasn't that he'd spent money that he shouldn't have, it was that I'd set something up that I should have really maybe cancelled and forgotten about. And again, I was honest with them about it and they helped me out. So, aye. Just a wee bit of balance there for you. And I have to say, I nearly went Xbox. Nearly decided on an Xbox for this next upcoming generation. The only thing really tying me up till now is the thought of having to buy all my train sim stuff again, and the amount of work that I put into Elite Dangerous. I know I could cash in my assets and get the cash value of it, but grinding all that fucking rep again, no thanks. So yeah, the TLDR version of that long rambling diatribe is, I wasn't very excited about it until I was when I saw that video. I like how the preserved turntable's still there. That they built the whole station around it. That is so awesome. I don't know if it actually moves or not. I don't think it does. I think that would be fixed in place. These freight trains. I wish there wasn't so much stuff parked around in the sidings here, because it absolutely murders your frames when you come through here at high speed. Right, so it's a nice long run to the next station, and then there's maybe only 1 or 2 stops after that. But what we should see along here is we should see quite a bit more S-Bahn traffic along this end of the line. open the tempo mat up all the way. Now, tempo mat, I'm still holding my finger down on the button, and it's not going any higher. So you cannot overspeed the tempo mat turned on. Even though the speed limit is 100, no, it's 200 at this point, I think. Even though the speed limit is very high, PZB will kick in at 165, so 160 is the practical limit. By regulation, they drive 5 kilometres below the limit, so the tempo mat is simply set to hold that sort of PZB max minus 5. To be fair, I mean, we'll still eat up the miles pretty quickly. Not as fast, obviously, not as quickly. So 6 kilometres down already. Should be okay for time. It's quite long signal blocks along here, so you've got plenty of time to react to stuff. The space in between the 4 signal and the main is still going to be 1200 metres, but once you pass the main, it can sometimes be a while before you see the next any signal. This is cool. This is when all the new stuff that's been added in starts to really add a bit of life to it. That was pretty cool. Ah, the screens. There we go. I've noticed that sometimes you'll see on the right hand side there, my tempo mat on off press prompt has never gone away. They occasionally hang up like that. If you can get away with it, standing up and sitting down quickly will clear any of those things away that have hung up. I'm not sure if it'll set off the safety system or not doing that though. So just will not. To be honest, I only just noticed it was there, but considering I switched the thing on, what, 13 kilometres ago, I'm assuming it's been there the entire time. train stowaway up there. We're just about out of sight of it. Yeah, agree absolutely. Telex number. The German routes, they're by far and away my favourites, just because of the variety and the volume of traffic. And the Rursig Nord now, oh, it's amazing. See, when you're banging about, and well, you'll know yourself, you've got the thing. When you're rattling about in the yard and you're having to wait for the main line traffic to go by for your little spot, you see so many different types of train going past. It is pretty amazing sometimes. Now, every route has its moments of brilliance. I don't think there's one route that is absolute sheer outright bad in my taste, or as far as my tastes go. I don't think any of them are objectively outright bad. Apart from NEC, that was crap and it deserved to die. Not because it was the Northeast Corridor, it was just technically it was not a very good route. Lots of things didn't work, lots of things were never going to work, and lots of things were just aye. I'd like to see another Amtrak route because I quite enjoyed it. When it all worked, it was brilliant. Every route, certainly, even the ones that I don't play as much of, like your West Somersets and things like that, there is still something in there, and there are still things I will go and play with from time to time. I might not stream them, but I'll dive into them occasionally. Doing okay for time now. You can usually make your time up on this this route. Gently. Okay. Let's go out and have a little let's exit through the passenger cabin, shall we? Let's go for a wander down the cabin, because I don't think I've done that yet. These are pretty cool. These actually do flex and bend as you go around the corners if you're sitting in the passenger compartment. It's cool. So you still can't go for a pee. And then that's as far as we can. I mean, you can go into that cockpit, that cab. There's just really no point. Oh, it's got the two different stairs as well. There's the other ones that you use for the little low-down platforms. Oh shit, we're supposed to have gone now. Buggery. Right, quickly. Yeah! Back to Le Cab. an S-Bahn train left just behind us. But we are going to be going faster and probably running late now as well, but hey-ho. Yeah, I've always said this about this game. Even when I've been slagging off some of the stuff that I felt was really poorly done or needed a bit more attention or that I didn't like for whatever reason, I've always maintained that if you like trains, you're going to find so much more in this game to love than you are to hate. That's why, despite all my bitching and mumping and moaning and whining, I still go out and get bloody everything the day it comes out, even the ones I think are going to be a bit... I had my concerns about Augsburg and I still went and bought it. And I've still played it. I won't stream it because I don't think it's really up to par. It's too empty. It won't make for a very interesting stream, I don't think. Once it's bulked up a bit and they've sorted out the performance issues, the performance issues, PlayStation. I like how they said in the pre-launch stream there are minor performance issues which you get approaching Munchen passing on the PC, and they were very, very good with their wording. They said you don't notice the problem on console. No, the reason you don't notice it on console or in Munchen passing is because it does that the entire way. It's really stuttery and juddery, but it has the potential to be the best bloody route in the game, I think, if we can get it optimised. I fear I'm not going to see that running at its best until, well, next spring now. I hope that's not the case. And there'll be many, many more sweary words if that turns out to be the case, but yeah. There is always something to be found in any of the content. Especially if you wait until the sale and pick it up on the cheap, then I would say some of it definitely, on the face of it, you might be, is it worth that though? Wait until it's half price and it's all worth it. There isn't a single locomotive add-on I would feel ripped off if I'd only paid a fiver for. I only paid like £3 or £4 for the, in fact it was like £2 or £3 I paid for the, that's how I completed West Somerset. I've got basically the whole lot on a sale for price of a pint beer in a city centre pub. I'm paying a wee bit more attention now because I'm aware as I come into Cologne I might run into some singlage or something. One emergency stop per stream is quite enough. I'm used to doing this end of the route on LZB as well, so you just sit with your feet up until you're more or less pulling into Cologne. still 2 kilometres out, I might come up to signals that are telling me to slow down. I think this is this is what we would call a main line station. This isn't one that you peel off to go into, I don't think. There's the Hapag Lloyd train from Ryder Austin over on the left there. I think we've missed rush hour. I'm sure the line is a bit busier, a bit earlier on. That wasn't too bad. Yeah, exactly. It feels like it's the same as Colnachen did in the first few weeks. It feels like you've got the foundation of something really, really good, but you don't really see it at its best until you've got, you know, freight trains sitting waiting for you to pass, and S-Bahn trains mixing with intercity expresses, which I don't think there are actually any on the line at this point. There's not as many of them along here a day. But the LZB under manual control it was different. I managed not to trigger any emergency stops, so I was quite pleased with that. Still not entirely sure what the hell's happening, but it's like that. Okay, so need to remember on the way out of here that speed limit change sign needs to be acknowledged. But it's a green signal, so I don't need to worry about running into a 500 Hz magnet further down here. Except in places where you do, they are occasionally used to guard things, and the driver's supposed to just know that he's going to run into that stuff. Had that issue in Rhine Austin, the Hagen end, approaching from the south. If you're on the main line, rather than the S-Bahn or the goods yard. Just running it up to 70 so I can pull it back down to 60 just to demonstrate how effective the tempomat braking is, which is fairly. And once we pass over into the 60, we're actually going to come down further to 40 because, of course, we saw an expect proceed at reduced speed signal with no other information on it, so we will assume 40 by the next main. Which you can leave to do fairly late with the tempomat. See, I could have left that until I was actually in the 60 zone, and I'd have still made it comfortably. And in fact, there we go, the HUD ticks over to show us that we're going into a 40 zone. When you're approaching a station, that's a fairly safe assumption to make, because you're going to be going over lots of fairly tight sets of points. They're not high speed points. Station points and shunt like points in goods yards and stuff tend not to be able to be run at particularly high speeds. You could run them at high speeds, but you'd knacker them really quickly. And again, previous signal was expect slow over expect slow, so there's no need to be concerned about a 500 Hz magnet head. And again, the last signal we're going to see is a expect slow. We're past that reduced speed. So I'm saying expect slow, expect slow. The top one is be slow, and the bottom one, if it's like that, is expect slow. That's not their literal names in German. That's just what I refer to them as. The other thing about these big German stations is you get really good at reading shunt signals and ground signals. Another thing about a keyboard, I love it not shouting Beeinflussung at me every time I acknowledge SIVA. Much as I love the fun stoppers, I do love that name for them. Can't take credit for it. That was Matt Bedleston started calling them that. Much as I do enjoy all those systems, God, I used to hate getting shouted at by the PZB guy every time I tried to acknowledge a SIFA. So there we go. I did more or less, including the station stop at the end. I did almost all of that with the tempomat. I never actually moved the power lever forward once, I don't think, apart from by accident for a split second somewhere. And I mean, if you're really good, you could probably do the whole damn thing on the tempomat if you were planning ahead a little bit and knew exactly where you were. I might actually try that one day, just to see if I can. Because the tempomat braking's awesome on this thing. Compared to the other one, which was fairly weedy when it came to slowing it down. You did kind of have to leap on the brakes, if I remember rightly. And compared to most AFB systems. Apart from the one on the 182, which is just like throwing an anchor out. Okay, locking the doors. And there endeth the session. So it's about an hour to come back along in the talent to about twice as long as it takes you to do it in an IC. Certainly I've got no complaints about the length of that route, to be honest with you. I think half an hour or so is about just the right amount of time for a high speed run. That's about the time I start to get itchy to do something anyway. It was the same with the Great Western. It was always a bit like that as well. I kind of felt like it was just long enough that I had to start doing things again at the point where I would be beginning to let my attention wander. But, aye, that was good, but I think that is where I'm going to call it for tonight, because it is a school night and I do still have a few things I need to go and do as well. But aye, that was Colnachen one way and back, with the new additional layers of traffic on top there. Quite a few things going on that weren't at launch. if you don't have the preserved collection, there's another reason to maybe pick some of them up as and when you see them on offers or what have you, because they do definitely um, have a carry-on impact into the new content, and a positive one by and large. But right, that's me. I'm running out of things to say, so I'm going to end it there. Thank you very much, folks, and it's been a pleasure as always, and hopefully I'll catch you guys soon. Cheerio.